Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the fourth and last episode of this special series with QDB. I'm beaming in from Doha in Qatar, where I'm at this magnificent startup environment called Scale 7, which is actually owned and operated by QDB. Joining me on the couch is Saad Ishfaq. Saad is the CEO of TESS Payments, and we'll get into TESS Payments in the general payment sector. But let me first welcome Saad to the couch.
Thank you so much, Arjun. Really a pleasure to be here with you.
And good to meet you. And I enjoyed my 10 minutes of conversation. I think we have a lot of common, if I may say, acquaintances or friends from Pakistan, where you actually come. But you've been in the Qatari ecosystem for quite a while now.
5 years now.
All right, excellent. Well, that's 5 years is legitimate enough for you to be able to talk about the system. So I'll tell you, Saad, very, very quickly for the people, because obviously my audience is quite wide. It's not just in Qatar. A little bit about TESS Payments. What do you guys do? Why does Qatar need TESS Payments?
We are a QCB licensed PSP, and we operate especially in the payments processing domain. We worked under the acquiring partnership of few banks in the country, and we offer digital and point of sale and soft POS solutions across Qatar. But we are specially based in Qatar. We are designed for Qatar, and we are only operational in Qatar, which effectively means that we do not have any short-term goals to go beyond Qatar.
So when you say PSP, and this is for the sake of the audience, you obviously you have online payment gateway provisioning, you have in-store solution, right? And you're also doing stuff like mobile POS yet or not?
Not yet.
Not yet. But you do both offline and online payments, right? Okay. Well, let's take a step back, right? And it's very interesting that you mentioned that you are by Qatar, from Qatar, for Qatar, right? But let's take a slightly more, I guess, 100,000 feet view, right? In terms of the world of payments, right? There's so much going on in payments, right? Like, you can go from anywhere in the madness of stable coins and digital assets and, CBDCs and altcoins and so on and so forth happening on one end. You got real-time payments, which has actually become a reality in a number of countries, including parts of GCC. You are seeing that the card networks are also reinventing themselves into more than just,
A payment scheme.
Payment scheme,
Yes.
right? And then you have multiple form factors that are emerging, closed loop form factors. There are QR form factors, so on and so forth, which are emerging. If I was to put you on the spot and say, what are the 2 or 3 most interesting trends that you are actually seeing, which also have an implication on the Qatari market?
See, first and the foremost is definitely as we have just mentioned, the global giants of payment schemes entering into the international remittance corridor as well. So for I think decades, this particular product has been one of the most important use case for financial services in this country. And now when you see a payment network scheme coming into this effectively has given me a signal that this is something where the room for growth is still there, where the key decision makers still see that, okay, they can also come and take some share of this particular pie. So that is definitely one is in the region, because I can see the implication across the real use cases as well. The second most important in across the region is how the products around SMEs are being built, and because you see the SME and especially the micro-SME across GCC is in my humble opinion has been underserved for quite a long time. And now finally the fintech ecosystem has identified this market. They have identified the use cases, and now they have started helping this particular ecosystem grow. So I don't think so. I have to mention the significance of the ecosystem, and especially let's suppose a Bakala near our houses in the GCC ecosystem. So the value they create for the daily day-to-day life operations. So we see a lot of products and services now being built around SME financing, supply chain financing, access to credit is there. All these real-time payments and real-time settlements that can help these small companies manage their cash flows. So this is something which is really interesting and to see further evolving.
Yeah, and let's double click on that, right? It's basically, thank you for bringing it because it's my favorite hobby horse, which is talking about how poorly the micro and small markets across the region, across the globe are served, right? I think I was reading a report, and maybe the number was right or wrong, but there's something like a $260 billion funding gap. But I don't even start with funding. I think there's just gap across the board. Some of these small businesses can't open bank accounts, right? They tend to overpay on payment solutions. In some markets, they're paying about 50 bips over and above, which could mean 20 to 25% more than what a large corporate would be paying. Yes, I'm starting to see fintechs come to the party, being creative in terms of revenue-based lending, invoice factoring, but unfortunately, the balance sheets are not big enough to support. I personally think that for this to get sorted, the banks will have to come to the party, right? With the help of the fintechs, with the help of the paytechs, right? I think the paytechs have done a wonderful job post-COVID because I think it catalyzed that shift,
Yes.
right? But
See, COVID has been a blessing in disguise for the fintech ecosystem, I'll
it's
be
been a
honest.
blessing in disguise for the networks also, by the way.
So, see, whoever thinks that there can be a fintech ecosystem without banks is in my humble opinion, is in a fool's paradise. What I think is needed at a large scale, and especially at that maturity can be brought from the regulators' help across the region and at large as well, is to create that trust between the fintechs and the banks. We are not the competition to the banks. We are. I think sometimes I also think, to be honest, that maybe some CTOs just of banks just gathered and produced fintech. So we are actually just a tech layer on top of the existing financial services. See, and this is what the banks needs to understand. And once we are and we can see these shifts in much more mature markets in the West, and this shift is going to be there very soon. You have just mentioned one of the player in UAE, and that is also coming out of the history goes back to a bank that they were carved out of a bank, and likewise there are other success stories as well. So as far as there as in without the support of the bank, fintechs cannot explode, or they cannot touch the
No, I agree with you. I think this collaboration is critical in every sector. And it's funny, and whether we get chance to talk about or not, if you see the entire digital asset space, right? 2 years ago, it was all about how digital assets are going to reinvent financial services. I think the number one use case today is how digital assets are converging into traditional finance. And the greatest example is stablecoins, right? And you mentioned cross-border payments, right? And one of the best use cases for stablecoin today is cross-border payments. And in emerging countries, whether it's Pakistan, India, Egypt, so on and so forth, it's about the ability to move money fastest. Let me sort of double tap on a little bit around TESS payments, right? Fintech is emerged in Qatar also, right? Over the last sort of 5 to 7 years, we've seen more and more activity. I've been coming and going from Qatar for the last 15 years, so I've actually seen
seen the evolution of the country as well.
And the country itself, right? And if I double click on the word fintech, obviously payments occupies the biggest space, right? So when a player like TESS Payments comes in, how do you what's the differentiating card for you guys? Because you're competing now with global players. They're in the market. There are some regional giants also with a fair amount of share. And then there's local competition, right? So there's 3 layers of competitiveness. How do you guys differentiate?
See, we are completely focused on the blue chip clients of Qatar, and this is where we come in with our flexibility and our managed services. So flexibility in our products and services, and managed services in terms of providing and going beyond just simply an integration support, and how we can actually solve payments for the entire organization. So it for our product is not just a vanilla product which can be simply consumed through standard APIs. We work very closely with organizations in how or which kind of ERPs they are using, what kind of settlements need they have, what kind of how they want to manage their financial operations, what further value they want us to build on top of the just simple payments processing. It can be certain use cases around real estate management, facility management, maybe someone is struggling with their parking solutions. So it's just the unique value added services which we build around the core of payments processing. And this is the reason we were able to process $1.2 billion in GMV last year, and hopefully it will touch 1.5 this year. We serve quite large clients in Qatar. If I may name, okay, so let's suppose Uridu Money is our client. We serve Talabat in Qatar. A few of the leading real estate organizations in Qatar, which are government backed in Qatar, are using our technology. Some government organizations uses us. So what we identified in 2021 was that how we can actually release the pain of a CFO and a CTO both in the same ship. So normally what is happening is that either the tech is too superb that the CTO is happy, and CFOs are never happy because of the settlements and chargebacks and refunds and partial refunds and this and that, and then how to reflect that money into their ledgers and then which account and entry to be hit. This is what we resolve for them.
So it's interesting. So from what I'm understanding here is you obviously offer the payment solution, but then you build a whole host of sort of customized value-added services. You basically integrating or embedding payments much deeper, right? That brings, in my humble opinion, a certain level of complexity, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, right? And a challenge with regards to repeatability. You name some very interesting sectors, and these sectors have very unique, unique needs, if I might say, right, from a payments perspective. So how do you scale something like this then? Where's that talent base? Are you, where do you get the engineering capability? Where do you get the infrastructure uniqueness? How do you achieve all of that?
On the ground, what we have done is basically we have created a layer of two layers of our engineering teams. One is a hardcore backend team that is fully focused on the platform and the entire operations of that platform, and then we have a complete integration layer and the support layer of the teams, which is especially designed around the needs of the client. So what we do is that, let's suppose you have Oracle, you have SAP, you have .NET, and you have XYZ. So that's how we carved out our own separate integration layer. And to an extent that now we even provide the code libraries to the clients, and they can simply, it's as simple as copy pasting a code and in implementing it in their internal solution. From the support perspective, yes, it comes with its own complexities, but I think that's how we continue evolving our because see, and I personally believe that there is no more innovation left in terms of technology, right? You are sitting in the age of Chat GPT and Gemini and they're that kind of technology. So it's all about what we call it optimizing fintech in this particular country, that how we are optimizing financial technology for organizations. And what we did was very coming through a very sales oriented mindset. We focused on those 20% of the clientage that will produce the 80% of the revenues for the organization. So everything was specially targetedly built and managed, and still to date we continue developing and managing ourselves around those 20% of the market.
Saad, I have a question. So your entire platform is proprietary. It's built and owned by you guys?
Yes.
So this is very interesting.
With some definitely some support, definitely we have. We work with external partners as well.
But your platform is your own platform,
yes.
right? And see, this is very interesting because I have always firmly believed that organizations which can own their platform, and I mean true infrastructure, are the people in payments at least who will continue to differentiate and be able to add that level of integration and that level of specificity.
So at the back is honestly there are few tech partners who are working very closely with us, who are there with us. So the model is more kind of a tech partners plus what we are doing over here. But yes, we do have a full control on the product, on the platform, the customizations that are needed. So everything is under our ambit.
Yeah, and that's important because a lot of payment players in the region, and I think a lot of them know me. I usually have always said that all you are a thin orchestration layer, which can easily be replicated. So purely you're playing a pricing.
And see, this is the reason, because of that very thin layer on top, you'll see a number of players in the market. right? Because this is the most easy way to enter that. You simply take a solution, enter into the market, and partner with the bank, or you have a payback model, right? But this is where you need to identify that this is not a sustainable model. If your technology is not able, you are not able to pivot your product, you are not able to satisfy, these large organizations, especially in a market like Qatar, where you have to be flexible enough to address these organizations
No, I totally agree.
needs.
So let's talk about two areas, right? So you work with a number of banks. You work with all the banks, I'm assuming.
Four of them.
Okay, right.
Yeah, I've worked with four leading banks in this
Okay, so
country.
so so there you're acquiring partners.
Three of them are our acquiring
Okay.
partners.
So tell me about the complexity of working with banks, because banks have typically, and you please correct me here, they have not invested enough capital thought in upgrading their payments play, right? Largely because I think what happened in the last 5 to 7 years happened so quickly that a lot of them didn't see it coming, right? It was very simple. You had a credit card, a debit card, and life went on, right? All of a sudden, this tsunami of change came, and it's going on and on and on now, right? So what are some of the challenges you face working with the banks? And I don't think this is not I'm not beating the banks down. Right? This is the reality of life, right? And how do you overcome some of those challenges?
See, yes, if you talk about, maybe 3 years ago, it was a huge challenge at every level. Even, in some of the meeting rooms, we used to sound like aliens. But no, in the last 2 years, it has drastically changed. Drastically changed. And the leading banks in the country has invested and has been managed to produce at least some of the very basic use cases which were actually missing for the ecosystem, right? Let's suppose online bank account opening for the businesses, maybe going through the complete implementation of digital physical these digital kiosk based and what are they, self-service machine based banking. So no, the banks have actually delivered a lot in the last 2 years.
Specifically in the payment space?
See, in terms of payments, I'm still um waiting, I'll be honest, because see, this country went through FIFA, and as a mandate, every corner of this country had a payment terminal, and still it's there. So I can empathize with the banks when they have invested such a huge capex on the payment terminals, where they are still trying to see the ROI of that investment rather than investing into some new innovative technology. So on that side, I'm much more easier on the banks, that okay, I do understand the hardware and the O&M cost, and they had to flood the entire market because there were just 3 or 4 leading banks in the country, so they have to make sure that the payments are accepted everywhere. So in that term, if you go even today in the far corner of Qatar as well, you will be able to tap your phone on a Salon or on a Bakala, and you will be able to pay for as low as for a Karak even. That is hats off to them. But he has the further innovation that used to be built, the invoice discounting products and the other products that needs to be there. I think this is where the fintechs needs to come into the place. They need to capitalize on the existing, rather than I go for a license and start deploying my POS devices in the market. We need to now capitalize on the existing infrastructure of the banks, of the investment that has already been made, and then the proposal for the banks should be that how they can capitalize on the existing captive base of their customers, as well as the existing capex which they had made.
Okay. So that was my next question is, you're an established player. You have, as you said, the blue chip clients, which actually have a wide requirement of needs. Is it not then a much more, if I may say, predictable strategy for people like you to start expanding to the adjacencies, whether that is coming up with fintech products which do invoice factoring, whether it is the CFO tech because you're already working with CFOs, whether it's expense management and going beyond, right? And going beyond just the payment part of the world. If I may ask, is that something stops you guys from doing that, or is it too?
No. So one thing is that we have already started, addressing the needs via offering, custom or kind of a product that is built around CFO needs, more kind of recon tools. Then in parallel to this last year, we have also initiated a very separate vertical from payments that is around digital lending. So we identified the most underserved target segment was the blue collar workers in the country, where they are there's a very on the blue collar part, and what we understood through the market research is that normally it is defined by the government as someone who is taking salary as low as 1800 Qatari riyals. But from the banking perspective, no one has an access to finance who has a salary below 7,000 Qatari riyal. Now this is very different in Qatar. I know the UAE market is very different, especially Dubai. So this is where we identified, and 50% of Qatar's population lie in this strata. That's 1.4 million people who doesn't have access to credit or instant cash. So we partnered up with a Singapore-based fintech there, and thanks to QDB and Qatar Fintech Hub, who facilitate the entire journey in this partnership. And we carved out a separate vertical for digital lending, and the brand was launched this year on Dubai Fintech Summit as Sharik Neo. So as we speak, we are under the QCB sandbox program, where we are validating the entire product and the processes behind that particular product of nano digital lending. And so what we are doing is, the unique proposition of ours is that we partner up with banks and institutions who are sitting on a captive base of this market segment, and then we go with technology and necessary resources, and then we do a revenue share with them. That's because they are already serving a base due to the mandate of the government. They need to serve the WPS of that base, but since that base is sitting there, they have a cost center over there, and that's how we were able to build, I think, 3 big partnerships in this country. 2 of them are with the banks, and one is with the another player in the market.
That's interesting. So you are evolving beyond the world.
Yes, and other than that, we have a complete separate vertical which is working around end-to-end WhatsApp-based payment solutions, WhatsApp-based invoicing solutions, reconciliation tools. But for us, these are the supporting value-added services that we continue adding for the payments business.
And which is the right thing. You mentioned the sandbox, right? And at least from an outside in perspective, I've actually seen the regulator in Qatar come a long way, right? You guys announced your fintech strategy. A number of the regulations have come out since. QFC has been doing some interesting work on the digital assets lab, right? You now have the Qatar Fintech Hub, right? So the ecosystem has been evolving and has been evolving in the last 5 years that you've seen, right? In your view, how is that helping businesses like you accelerate your strategies?
So I'll take a step back. So we experienced the Qatar financial services sector without all of this. So one thing I must highlight is that today it's much more easier to innovate. Today it's much more easier to talk. And this is very important for organizations, especially the lean organizations like us, to even strategize for the next 3 months, next 6 months. This is very important. And this is where this has actually helped companies like us to formulate the roadmap or the strategies that what we really need to do. So the top of the line is the clarity of thought process which the government has given to the private sector. So this is the first part. The second is see, I think that every regulator represents the economic interest of their countries. So with Qatar, it's the best part is that they know that Qatar is a launch pad of innovation and technology in the region. And this is where the government especially worked. And let me assure you that, the Qatar's sandbox program is one of the most flexible in the region when it comes to validate your products or use case or what you are trying to do in a regulated space. So this is where, the third part is that, when we thought as a payment services company, we thought of going into a consumer digital lending company. So the regulator was receptive enough to listen to us, and they talked with us, and they because normally the progression is not that from payments you enter into a lending business. But, this is the comfort that the QCB, the sandbox program, the Qatar Fintech Hub, and the overall ecosystem has given to.
So are you on your way to becoming a neobank then?
See, Well, definitely the wish list is there, but not explicitly, because there's still certain, I think, indicators that needs to be identified internally at our board level and at organization level before going to a full-fledged digital lending
No, I
journey.
get that. But
So that's why we took a one step back and we thought that, okay, let's start with the digital lending. Eventually, the main money is in the lending business. So if you are able to click and crack that code, then definitely we'll think on the other
yeah,
side.
and I think having an established payments business is a great enabler, right? So it enables you. So I'm cognizant of time. We're late in the evening. Last two questions. The first one: when we started this conversation, you were very clear and articulate in your way, saying that in the near term we're for Qatar, we're focused in Qatar, right? In my humble view, and you can correct me, right? Payments is a scale game, right? You're doing something brilliant by adding all this value add around it, whether it's lending or CFO services. Why have why say no to regional expansion?
See, especially on the payment side, not on the digital lending side. So Shareek Neo is the brand which is built in Qatar to expand outside
Okay,
Qatar. So yes, so that is for
and
definitely
largely because
yes.
that's an infrastructure play, right? But so is payments. But please finish the answer.
Yes, but when it comes to payments, we find it very competitive, it's a crowded market, right? Just in Qatar, I have a local competition with 14 players, right? It's Qatar. Now you know the numbers of UAE or Saudi, so we don't really see the potential of putting an effort into this side. Rather, we now the effort is towards the digital lending
Okay.
side.
No, fair enough. I think if you can scale horizontally, I guess, and add more verticals, then I guess it makes perfect sense. It's just that because I feel that based in Qatar and with everything that I've heard and all the support mechanism which is coming around, whether it's QDB, QIA, QFC, I think there are some very interesting markets in the Levant. There's some interesting markets possibly in Central Asia where you are very well positioned to expand into. So again, I'm not suggesting you should, but it's a question. Uh, my last question, and it's a personal question to you. Before I was prepared, or while I was preparing to speak to you, I looked at your own sort of personal career. You come out of the Pakistani ecosystem. I, for one, find that ecosystem quite interesting because I think it's a big country, 300 million people, economically diversified, all kinds of challenges, but at the same time opportunity. A youthful population, high smartphone adoption, but not the highest literacy rate, right? You learned your chops in Pakistan. You've come to Qatar, right? Talk about a little bit about your journey into sense in, how did you have to kind of redefine Saad?
I wanted to be a filmmaker when I was in my
Excellent.
undergrad.
That's what every payments player wants to be.
And my undergrad is in media studies, right? But then I identified that, I went through a good 3 or 4 years of journey by touching multiple industries. So advertising, tobacco, non-governmental organizations. So worked across a few of the industries. And then one fine day I landed into financial services. So since that day, I'm still stuck to financial services because of two very, very clear reasons. At large, the kind of impact your products and services can create in humans' life. So I still remember that in Pakistan, when I was working with one of the leading telecom-backed fintech player, Jazz Cash, we were able to launch the very first public to government payments P2G payment program that customers or the public will be able to pay through their mobile accounts for a passport fees payment, and that still remained very close to my heart because no one had actually cracked in the entire country at that time, and we were the first one to do that. And we know that how much effort we had to put with the government and with the stakeholders in that. So the impact is something which whenever we create an impact, and then the lives we touch over there. Second and the foremost is as I was mentioning that when we started financial services, it was just mobile financial services. That it was not the fintech, digital UI UX based financial services. So I think at that point in time, every 2 years, and now I think every second week, we get to know and we get to see new innovation, new knowledge coming in, which keeps on challenging on my own past knowledge, and challenges me enough to forget everything what I've done, and then let's learn and relearn. So this puts an energy into me. So that's why I am consistently fixed towards this financial services
And talk about your
industry.
transition to Qatar. So what did you learn in Pakistan? Were you able to bring here? And what are the new things you had to learn here?
All absolutely. So Pakistan has definitely has contributed to what I am today, both in my personal and professional life. As in there is a huge learning space where anyone can So see, what you have mentioned, that definitely the macros are positive as well, and there are certain micro level challenges as well of the country, but it has its own uh, upside as well. See, the greatest learning, which I'm sure whoever is Pakistani and listening to your podcast as well, is the grit that it gives you. So no matter how much hard the situation is, no matter how much, we come with certain resilient mindset that we don't accept towards failure. We continuously go back to put an effort, let's pivot, let's think of the other solutions. So that is something which has helped actually me to survive Qatar initially as well. But let's see how it takes forward.
Oh, excellent, Saad. I appreciate you taking out time.
Thank you so very much.
I
Thank
wish
you.
you and TESS Payments the very best. I will watch more closely now, now that we have come across, and I'm quite interested to see how your consumer lending product actually does outside the market, because I tend to spend my time across the GCC and the MENA region, so it'll be interesting to watch. So appreciate you coming on, Saad.
Likewise, likewise. Thank you so much for this opportunity and really pleasure to connect with you. Let's stay in touch.
Sure, for
Thank you
sure.
so much.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Saad Ishfaq, who's the CEO of TESS Payments. Very interesting career. He started in Pakistan, came to Qatar. He's been here for 5 years and has actually grown this business into something which is quite fascinating. Payments continues to be, in my language, the enabler for fintech, and I think they're proving that you can be built for Qatar, by Qatar, and serving Qatar if you do it smartly. So with that, I'll say goodbye, and till we see you next time. Bye bye.